Hello everyone, where is Patrick? Thank you very much for your introduction about Kubernetes. I really need this. I'm going to bring you another view, I hope, the one of the app developer, which was visible a bit on the right side there in your diagram. Just a tiny bit.
Just a small part.
But do you realize that we actually produce the thing the customers are paying for, the whole stack, right?
You're right, actually. That's true.
And you have a nice voice to say that also. So yeah, first, who am I? I'm Joshua. I'm working for Heroku. This is a Rails web agency. So we use a lot of RAM and basically don't care about what you guys do as long as it just runs. And we are a very happy 9 customer because with 9, stuff just really works. And probably because I'm so positive about 9, I was also invited. And I also want to tell you how much I'm really not Facebook. See, I'm really not Facebook. I'm very aware that you probably, and 9, could run Facebook. You probably could, or Cloudflare, maybe. But I'm not Facebook. And that's what I'm going to tell you about. So, the agenda today is, I'm really not Facebook. I'm coming from Heroku, from the big RAM-based Rails world. And Kubernetes leaks a hell of a lot into Deploio. Oh, maybe you recognized as well, since I'm from Heroku, but you just boldly using the Deploio sites. So this is where I come from Ctrl+S deployments. Some of you might have started with that as well. You might have used Notepad++ and PHP with the Notepad++ FTP plugin. You change a file, you save, and it's automatically synchronized to your server, and it's live in milliseconds. I write the code, and I deploy in milliseconds. And this got all taken from me. We need to scale today. It's all load balanced, self-healing, auto-scaled, and secure. And in the middle here you see, oh, this is a magical auto-scaling group. And since it's all microservices, I can throw a team here and here and here and here. And I'm not really comfortable with that. I'm from the small world. I have really little apps, which I understand well with all the context in my head. I'm using Linux, Puma, Postgres, and Rails. And I want to just focus on the code I'm writing. All the rest, 9 should do it. Patrick should do it. I'm bringing you examples of how small the apps are. I have, this here is requests per month. We're doing an app for Swiss Staffing, the temporary agency lobby organization, which collects for 50% of the temporary market all the KPIs from the software. And we aggregate them all, so we have 10 API users who deliver us. And there are 2 GUI users, me, who needs to check if the deliveries came in or if something didn't work to debug, and the customer at Swiss Staffing is looking at the aggregation. And these numbers here, they go to the SECO. So political decisions are made on this very, very small app. So, very small. I'm really not Facebook. And again, I have an app we do which has 10,000 requests per minute. So, quite a bit, but still very much not Facebook. I want to say Heroku is way enough. This is where I'm coming from Heroku with Rails, where an app is just an app and doesn't need all the mumbo jumbo around it. So I understand my business case, and it runs on the web, and I'm basically thinking in HTTP, maybe SQL. Let's just hope that it's standard SQL and not an Oracle cluster or something like that. Well, and I just want to press save to deploy. So I want to show you a video about what Heroku was like in 2007. I found it on the web archive. Let's crank the audio full up.
When you create an application with Heroku, it's live and on the web instantly. Here I'm logged into my Heroku account. On the My Apps page, you see I've already got one app named Friends, but now I'll create a new one just by clicking Create a New App. It takes a few seconds to set up my vanilla Rails directory, the database, configuring the web server, and so forth. And then it takes me into the code editor here, and we're just going to skip past this quickly and go to the upper right. This button here will take me to view the front of my application. Here I see my app is already online with the familiar Welcome Aboard Ruby on Rails webpage.
Done. Inception. Remember, this was in the netbook era. Everybody thought we will only run a browser on our laptops and everything will be in the browser, even the code editor and everything. This didn't turn out like that, but the ideal Heroku in 2007 basically looked like this. The idea was I could go in the browser and edit code here, deploy just with this button here. We'll see all the logs. I could do database migrations. What it didn't have was tests and CI. This is what I take an issue with. And it also didn't have the ability to throw teams and teams on problems, which I think the merchants of complexity really like in big companies. But it was enough for the company to be bought by Salesforce 3 years later for $200 million. Yeah, as a disclaimer, we are not using Heroku like that anymore. We edit our code locally now. We then push. Also, that's also why Heroku was a Git repository, or is a Git hoster, right? Because they came from the other side. At Deploio, we are not a Git hoster explicitly. You have your code somewhere else, and you bring it to Deploio. Heroku was different. And then they built your code and released it all in an instant. And the way to the release got longer and longer and longer. But I still like Heroku very much. I can focus on my code and on the product. The database is a sideshow. Networking is a sideshow. Load balancing is a sideshow. Logging is a sideshow. They use sensible defaults, and all you guys here are a sideshow. I like that. Yeah, everything, if it works. If it works. So yeah, but it's not a Swiss company. At Renuo, we already in 2015, so after 2 years of starting to use Heroku, wanted to find out, couldn't there be a Swiss alternative? I mean, this is 10 years ago, and customers asked us, yeah, but all in the US and this 150 milliseconds round trip, and so Heroku changed this themselves. They also have a European data center in Ireland, but nevertheless, the idea really never left us. And so we teamed up with 9 together to develop Deploio as basically the Swiss Heroku. So yeah, we thought how hard, yeah, well, we actually thought it will be really hard. But this is, I think, all the time bookings of the Renuo side. We spent about 3,000 hours on developing Deploio with you guys together, and you probably 10 times more, I guess. And not even counting the time Cyril spent on Zero Pod, open source contributing stuff, and Kubernetes enhancement proposals.
Answering ideas and feedback.
Yeah, and he probably, Cyril has more hours available than we all together. Don't really get it. So, I want to summarize basically that I think we are there as Renuo, as a customer of Deploio. I can say yes, we run almost everything on Deploio now. We had got rid of 150 Heroku apps or so, and I think we have about 20 left, and everything else is running on Deploio in production since a year, and we never had a major outage. So I think Deploio runs really well. But the Kubernetes part, really this Kubernetes part. I really thought Kubernetes is magic. It's the silver bullet for all of your problems, and you guys know what you're doing, are you? Because maybe I only struggle because I'm not Facebook, but it leaks. In regards to mental models, for example, Patrick told something about culture or so. I just have a problem with all this terminology in Kubernetes. For me, I come from a world where I have a process. It listens on a port. For example, I like CGI. CGI basically is just a browser reading a file over a socket. And in the meantime, the server injects, writes stuff to it. So it's basically just a pipe over the internet. And we all made this really, really, really complex, and I really don't get the reason why. Oh, I hope you do. But is now an app configuration what I should talk about, or an app configuration? And this reminded me also of a Java class, which exists actually. Terminology is just too complex. Then renaming stuff. It seems that in Deploio we cannot rename our apps, and I really don't know why. I can rename my files, I can rename my Google Docs, I basically can rename everything, but I'm not sure if it's just too difficult to keep labels consistently on Kubernetes configurations, so that I could just select by a name label instead of naming the resource. But currently we can just tear down the app or copy it, and then we have a different name. So if you have solutions for this, go to 9 and tell them how they should do it. Then persistent storage. We talked about NFS just before the start of the presentations, right? There is a movement in Rails which would like to go back to SQLite because we have faster drives, we have SSDs everywhere, and reading from SQLite is really fast. And you probably all think, that's not a real database. But only if you write a lot, that's really a problem. But I write Rails applications which don't write that much, actually. So yes, I'm used to not use files because I use Heroku, and there everything is 12-factor. We talk to S3 over HTTP to the object storage. So I'm kind of used to this, but this limit, so to hit this hard limit is really difficult for me. To not get proper file support, except for giving Nutanix a lot of money, I heard. I think you could do it, right? Yeah. It's too expensive.
Come on.
So yeah, if you have good solutions for files, you can also come to 9. Or sponsoring. And then the last point, basically what made the title for this presentation, just because I was really angry, frustrated, was that I apparently, if I have only one replica, I can choose between, I will just have downtime. If I have one replica, I have downtime. If the node is being depleted, we'll have downtime until a new node is created and the app is moved. Why the heck? In my eyes, Kubernetes is just not there. The magic they promised, they did not fulfill, because I am not Facebook. I don't have 10 apps running in parallel, so that adding another replica just means 10% more of RAM. In my case, 2 replicas mean double the RAM. So instead of 30K per year, I pay 60. So I have it here written. by you. Kubernetes is not magic. And I'm kind of sad about this. Yeah. So I know the 9 guys are really searching for a solution there, but it's just not so easy. It really bugs me, because you can also not just duplicate the replicas during when you want to move a node, because the developer maybe didn't expect or wouldn't expect that there are suddenly 2 apps running. You can just not do that. And what struck me most was that Tom, the tech guy from the 90s, also thought this would just be working magically. And come on, if Tom doesn't get it, then it's just not right. Then it's not easy enough. Then Deploio has to become better. Then Facebook shouldn't leak into Deploio. Then or Kubernetes shouldn't leak in a Facebook, Google, Microsoft way into Deploio. It should just be easier, so that the simple app developer like me gets it and doesn't hit so many obstacles, and that Tom's expectations are just magically fulfilled by Deploio, because Deploio ought to be easy. And yeah, I have a summary to make. Maybe if you didn't notice, Heroku was great. You also want to say they are not that great anymore, because they started moving to the next generation fear. So we started seeing these 2-minute downtimes, these Kubernetes-like 2 minutes, 1 replica downtimes on Kubernetes as well. On Heroku as well. Before they didn't have that. Before, for the last 15 years, they were using Amazon EC2 instances, and they had their own custom router which only supported HTTP 1.1. And that was a problem. That's why we had Cloudflare in front to do all the HTTP 2s, SSL, and HTTP 3 stuff, and DNS, and the downtimes of the week, 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago. But yeah, also Heroku is moving away from what made it great. That was just behaving expectedly most of the time. Yeah, and the big companies are leaking into my small app development world, and I don't like that. That's the closing words. Questions?
Wouldn't there be even a quicker way to deploy your application? Like in terms of just SSH into a server, enter Vim, edit your code, and you don't have to deploy anything at all?
Good question. Very good question. If you would have a disk. But you took my disks. No, but I'm really thinking about this as well. But it's not so easy, because you want to have tests. You want to run the tests before, so you don't want to deploy something which is not working. So stuff takes a long time, especially if you want to run a big 15-minute suite of browser clicking through stuff. But then again, maybe you could just deploy it, then run the tests, and then roll back if it didn't work. Probably not, because you have database migrations who fucked up your database as well. But maybe you could roll that back as well, because you have backups. Well, at least Heroku has rolling backups. You can say, you can have a timestamp and roll back to exactly this time. Yeah, I would like to have this back, yes. Thank you.
More questions? Not, then thank you very much, Josua.